You're about to hear a perfect example of a lying libtard. And I want you to note the setup from the moderator here as she throws this lob ball at this lying inane drone.
To many before the pandemic started. More than 100,000 Americans have died from COVID-19 so far. To try to get some perspective on this moment, I'm joined by presidential historian Michael Beschloss and Andy Slavitt. He's former acting administrator of the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. He's been a notable health voice about all of this. He hosts a podcast, In the Bubble. Welcome to both of you. Michael Beschloss, to you first. This is a number that's, I think, almost impossible for us to conceive this many deaths in such a short time, just a matter of 3 months. Is there any calamity in American history? Or maybe I should ask, what calamity can you compare this to in American history?
Well, this is no, even if the deaths did not grow any larger, this would be one of the great calamities and one of the terrible experiences of American history that our descendants will unfortunately be reading about.
You hear that lie? So let's compare it to the Spanish flu. The Spanish flu lasted a year and 4 months, killed 3 to 4 times more people than the 6-year World War I, which was 37 million. So we lost almost upwards of somewhere between 50 and 100 million minimum from the Spanish flu, which had nothing to do with Spain. Because of liars like this, it's called the Spanish flu. Because of liberals like Woodrow Wilson who wouldn't let people report it. The only country not in the war, Spain in Europe, reported on the flu. And so we stuck them with that moniker. Okay, so that's lie number one. And this idiot on 100,000 deaths in America is trying to compare this to the Spanish flu, which killed millions, okay? Killed millions of Americans. That's the first thing. Secondly, watch this next lie.
And, you have to go back to the flu pandemic of 1918, 1919. That was 670,000 Americans who lost their lives. But that was over a century ago, and that was the time before modern medicine. To think that we could suffer losses like this, and they may be growing, and they may be a lot larger, that's something that's going to loom very large in American history.
There has been no medicine since 1918 to deal with a virus like corona. So this guy's lying. We still don't have it. That's why we have no vaccinations. And by the way, what's killing people isn't the virus, it's the bacterial infection, which they're just starting to understand. Which is why Trump was absolutely correct in the hydrochloroquine usage, okay, in the early stages of the virus. He was spot on.
It's a somber evening.
Andy Slavitt, I looked it up. The United States has something like 4.25% of the global population. And yet our number of COVID deaths are around 30% of the global number. And yet here we are, the richest country in the world with some of the most advanced medicine and science. How could this have happened?
I think we're going to have a couple of levels of regrets. First, I think in advance of the COVID coming here, not recognizing what was going on in Beijing, in Wuhan, even as we were being warned, not keeping a stockpile ready, not being prepared to contain the virus. Those were all things I think are pretty well.
That's the byproduct of a unhomogeneous society. Look where most of the deaths occurred. The most open liberal places. The most unpoliceable cities like New York. With the most amount of liberals calling President Trump a xenophobe. All you have to do is go back to February and March and listen to Stephen Colbert and all the smart alecks at Saturday Night Live. Right? Mocking the president for shutting down travel with the Chinese communists who promulgated this viral infection. And these two left-wingers are trying to dump it on Trump not being prepared. right? Trump. Trump, the only guy who acted swiftly and responsibly in cutting off travel. But in open democratic societies full of libtards with unmanageable populations who do not buy into the common culture because liberals like these guys tell them to stick to their ebonics and go their own way, right? You don't have to conform. No, you could come to New York and speak Pashtun and Urdu and Farsi, and you're just as at home as the white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, of which I am not one, who built this country. But you'll listen to this man whose family came from Eastern Europe, along with Mr. Beschloss, and they'll tell you what the problem is. They did this in Austria-Hungary, by the way.
Known, and I think there's some estimates on lives that could have been saved. I think once things came here, our response was a little bit more hands-off and tepid than in other countries around the world. I don't think the federal government wanted to embrace ownership of the challenge as it happened in other parts of the world. And so even seeing the president come out every day wearing a mask would have made an enormous difference, and taking a little bit of medicine early so that we could have saved some lives.
Well, let's quote Dr. Fauci, who in February said, "This disease is not a threat to the United States." Yeah, that's right, Slavin. Your boy, Dr. Fauci, of the Obama CDC. So who are you trying to lie to? You lying rat bastard.
Would have opened up the economy earlier. And today I think we're still in a similar spot where we are declaring victory, in a manner of speaking, deciding that this is over, when the virus is really still here. It's still as deadly. It's still as contagious. And so I worry that we continue to make some of the same mistakes.
Yeah, but you're not worried about people killing themselves for no money. You're not worried about people starving to death or not getting cancer checkups or treatments for heart disease. That's not worrying you. Okay, so the 100,000 people we've lost, compare that to the statistics across the board of all the diseases that afflict this country. And again, don't go into the poor neighborhoods and tell these people to stop eating pork rinds and drinking 65 ounces of soda and living and dying by McDonald's and all other things that they do. Now, you're not going to take that on. Why don't you go up to Minneapolis and try to referee the latest riot because of a bunch of degenerate cops? One group of DJs destroying another.
Well, Beschloss, how do you compare this president's leadership at this time with the leadership of other presidents who've led this country through war, through pandemics, and the rest of it?
Right, that's really what you have to compare it to, Judy. And here's a case where, in a time of war, a time of Great Depression, you want a president, first of all, to show empathy, that he understands what's going on. Abraham Lincoln, for instance, at the height of the Civil War, so many people were dying. They came to Lincoln and they said, "We need to build another cemetery. Where do you want it?" And Lincoln said, "Build it near my summer home so that every single day I see the graves being dug, and I'm reminded of all the casualties that are occurring because of the decisions that I'm making."
It's a complete and utter lie. You fabricating, mendacious piece of crap that never happened. Lincoln did not say where to bury those soldiers. That was done by a Union general who, in anger toward Robert E. Lee, who called him a traitor, started to bury the dead on his plantation at Arlington. It had nothing to do with President Abraham Lincoln, you lying sack of crap. And I invite anybody to look it up. Lincoln didn't want to be reminded of anybody dying. He was a psychopath, depressive person. He had lost 2 of his sons in the previous 2 years. He knew about death and he didn't want any part of it. But let me tell you something about Abe. If he was so brilliant and so forthright, Mr. Beschloss, why did he go to the Southern leadership and say, "We'll pay minimum wage for your slaves for the next 5 years so as to wean you off slavery"? Well, he wasn't willing to do that. Let me give you a Lincoln quote, in case you don't know. I don't give a farthing. If it would hold the Union together, I would not do a thing to save niggers from slavery. Those were his words. Save niggers from slavery. But you wouldn't dare allude to that either. Because in 1858, that's what pretty much white people said. Okay? It wasn't as racial a pejorative as it is today. But pal, those were his words. To save the Union, he would walk away from the issue of slavery. And all he had to do was offer some money. You know, Mr. Beschloss, some fishnaggles to buy slavery into freedom. But he wasn't willing to do that. He was going to prove a point. He was going to kick some Southern ass. So don't give me this crap that he walked on water and he was Father Abraham, because that's just not the truth. The truth is, nothing is that simple. And when you conflate Corona to the Civil War, you putz. 52,000 casualties at Gettysburg. 48,000 at Shiloh in 2 days. Gettysburg 3 days. Antietam 26,000 in 1 day. You want me to keep going on? And those were with guns and men who stood their posts. Something the likes of you doesn't know, because your ancestry is not of that ilk. So don't give me this crap that you have any idea about, about conflating this kind of stuff. You are a liar and a hypocrite. So take that and stick it up where the sun don't shine, and stop making up history for the unwashed, you lying piece of crap.